Forget the static violence of the gladiator. For a true Roman, the ultimate obsession was pure speed, and the defining sound of spectacle was the rhythmic, seismic thunder of hooves. This is the Circus Maximus, a massive U-shaped bowl nestled between the Palatine and Aventine hills, a monument to competition that hosted races for over 1,000 years. It wasn't merely a stadium, it was a valley, a colossal structure holding over 250,000 spectators. Imagine the sight, a unified sea of humanity, from the emperor in the imperial box to the lowliest slave, their roar a single, continuous, seismic wave of anticipation. Why this obsession? Because here the class barriers momentarily dissolved, united by the thrill of the chase. This wasn't a game, it was a microcosm of Roman life. High politics, massive state-sanctioned gambling, and lethal business, all wrapped into one. The Charioteers, the Aurigæ, were not citizens. They were often slaves or foreign-born freedmen. Yet they commanded celebrity and wealth greater than any senator. We speak of men like Gaius Appuleius Diocles in the 2nd century CE, whose career earnings were meticulously recorded, a staggering sum that would be valued at over 15 billion modern dollars. But the cost of that fame was constant, imminent death. Every race or missus was a brutal 7-lap gauntlet, and the entire city was divided by the 4 great factions. The competition was defined by the 4 great factions: the Reds, Whites, Greens, and Blues. These were far more than simple sports clubs. They were immensely powerful commercial and political organizations, essentially the first professional sports leagues. Each color represented an allegiance that defined an entire segment of society, and their rivalries were so fierce they often resulted in full-scale street riots across the empire. A victory for the Greens meant the triumph of their political and business patrons. A defeat was a public humiliation. Today, the veteran driver of the Blue faction is struggling against the ruthless new speed of the Greens. The frenzy, however, was not limited to cheering. Archaeology has unearthed hundreds of curse tablets or defixiones, small lead scrolls buried near the track or in graves. These tablets contained binding spells, invoking underworld spirits to torment and kill the horses of rival factions, or to make an opponent Charioteer lose his mind and eyes. This was the dark reality of Roman fandom, a belief that mere skill was not enough, and that victory could be secured through magic. The cost of a successful career was not just physical danger, but the knowledge that thousands of anonymous enemies wished you and your horses a sudden, violent death. Our veteran Auriga prepares his quadriga, his 4-horse team. Look closely at his equipment, for it instantly reveals the deadly gamble of the sport. The chariots were not the sturdy, heavy war rigs of the Egyptian or Hittite empires. They were ultra-light vehicles, built with minimal wood and leather, sometimes weighing less than 70 pounds. They were designed not for durability, but to maximize velocity. The minimal construction meant they were designed to shatter on impact, turning a simple misstep into an explosion of splinters. The driver's protective gear is equally minimal: a simple leather helmet, a colored tunic, and crucial leather straps, the fasci wrapped tightly around his chest and legs for support against the violent jolting. This contrasts sharply with their immense celebrity. A slave-born driver could gain fame akin to a living god, yet wear only the bare necessities to cheat death. Their average career span was frighteningly short, but the immense potential reward kept the hopeful coming. The single most dangerous element of the Roman Charioteer's gear was the rein setup. The 4 leather reins are tied tightly around the driver's waist, giving him absolute, total direct control over the 1,000 pounds of straining horseflesh in front of him. This technique gave them maximum leverage, especially on the critical turns. But it came at a terrible price. In a crash, the driver could not simply drop the reins. He would be instantly dragged beneath the hooves and the wreckage, his body bound by the very straps that promised him victory. That's why every auriga carried a tool no modern racer would recognize: the falx, a small, curved bronze knife tucked into his belt. This was his last resort, his only chance to frantically slice the ropes and save his own life before being dragged to pieces. This is the stark contract of the auriga, a master of speed bound to his machine by the straps that were also his potential death sentence. The track falls silent. All eyes turn to the carceres, the 12 massive starting gates built into a long, dramatic arc at one end of the circus. The chariots are lined up, 48 horses in total, restless and snorting, sensing the imminent burst of speed. The tension is almost unbearable, broken only by the nervous shuffling of the animals. Above the track, the presiding magistrate signals the beginning by dropping the mappa, the official white handkerchief. The launch is an earth-shaking stampede. Drivers fight desperately for the crucial inner lane by the spina, the central barrier adorned with statues of gods. This spina was itself a cosmic timeline. It featured 7 massive eggs dedicated to the divine twins, Castor and Pollux, patrons of horses, and 7 bronze dolphins sacred to Neptune, god of the sea and horses. As each of the 7 laps was completed, 1 egg and 1 dolphin would be mechanically lowered, visually marking the grueling progress of the race for the ecstatic crowd. The turning posts, or meta, stand at either end of the spina. These 3 conical stones mark the most critical and historically the deadliest points of the entire track. Here, the minimal banking and the crushing centrifugal force meant the smallest error resulted in disaster. The young, arrogant green faction driver knows this. He pilots his ultralight rig with ruthless ambition, using the classic tactic of fouling. He angles his wheel, driving it into the flank of the veteran Blues team, attempting to force the horses off the line and trigger a catastrophic wreck. The veteran Blue team holds their line, their driver relying on sheer brute strength to keep the 4 horses straight. But the chaos still explodes. A white faction chariot caught in the ripple clips the central barrier. The wood splinters in a flash. The horses trip. In a sickening cascade of leather, wood, and flesh, the white chariot collapses. The Romans had a word for this scene of catastrophic wreckage and carnage. They called it a naufragium, a shipwreck. The blue veteran races through the debris, forced wide, losing precious seconds to the green leader. But he has survived the first major hazard. We are in the final lap. All 7 of the lap counting markers have been lowered, signaling the final sprint. The green driver is ahead, but his arrogance and aggressive handling have pushed his fragile machine past the breaking point. The blue driver senses the fragility of his rival's lead, relying on the endurance of his older, heavier chariot. As they round the final meta, the moment of maximum stress, the green driver's axle, the source of his advantage, snaps under the unbearable centrifugal force of the turn. The crash is violent. The green driver is instantly ensnared, his body dragged and spinning directly into the path of the veteran blue team. The blue Auriga sees the wreckage looming. He has no time to use his reins to stop. His speed is too high. He knows the weight of his own heavy quadriga will crush his rival instantly. In one final desperate motion, a choice between his life and that of his competitor, he grabs the falque and slices the thick leather reins from his own waist. He is now free, but riding a half-ton projectile guided only by momentum and voice commands. He steers the stable, heavy chariot through the razor-thin edge of the explosion. His wheels crunch over splintered wood, but the solid frame holds firm. He crosses the finish line alone, standing upright, his victory a testament not just to speed, but to survival and a sliver of honor in a lethal sport. This was the high stakes and brutal beauty of Roman chariot racing, the original pursuit of speed that would capture the world for centuries.